My name is Audrey. I have a new life in Christ, and I'm recovering from depression, codependency, and lust. So a little background, my whole family isn't religious. The topic of religion was always cast off as something unimportant. Like my family would go to a Catholic church for Christmas to appease my grandma, but the whole ride home we would just make fun of it. I grew up with an idea that religion was laughable, that the only true things were what I could see. I remember conversations me and my sister would have with my dad when we were younger and we realized that we would die one day. We were always taught that the only thing after death was nothingness, so might as well be happy while you have the 1 in a trillion chance you do to live on earth. This would absolutely terrify me. I started to get really good at ignoring every single hard question that popped up in my head because thinking about anything beyond me and my life scared me. I found my comfort from my lack of purpose in life in people. I lived for the feeling of being seen and loved by someone. Once COVID hit, it was hard for me because I couldn't see my friends at school. Without having friends at school to find my identity in, I didn't have a clue who I was. One day, I got the Bible app on my phone because of a TikTok or something. I would read the verse of the day and was interested, but then a family member saw the app and made fun of me, laughing at me having it on my phone. I deleted it without much of a second thought. Going into high school, I had absolutely no backbone or purpose, but I still couldn't shake my want to be truly seen by someone. I was trying to find relief in the sport I played. I would practice 2 or more hours a day and would never be satisfied. No matter how many times I would succeed, I would only look to the next best thing. At this time, I started to look for fulfillment in my life through different passing pleasures and happiness, like smoking and attention from guys. Something that happened in this period of my life that confused me at the time was how a few times when I was being pressured to sin in some way, I would stop and I'd say that I felt like someone was watching me. I would feel so bad, but I eventually started to ignore this feeling and continued in sin. The things I was engaging in led me to be more unfulfilled. My response to this was continuing to stake more of my identity on people. I changed my personality so others would love me, so much so that I felt like no one at school really knew me at all. I was known by my friends as someone who would never take a side or say no to someone, but what they didn't know was that was only because I was too afraid to lose my sense of purpose, which was people. I remember this time of my life as full of noise. There was always talking or calling people or music or podcasts, and even though these things are good, I only had them in my life because I was terrified of silence, of feeling the hole in my heart and recognizing that people could never satisfy me. By sophomore year of high school, I was depressed, and I got in a relationship with a guy that completely evaporated any sense of self and purpose I had left. If someone would love me more if I acted differently, I would in a heartbeat, and I did. That year, I was only known to myself as a girlfriend. It sounds so dramatic in hindsight, but it's true. At this point, I was completely convinced that religion was stupid. I remember one day seriously pondering how people could value religion so highly in their lives. To me, it just seemed like a story to make hurt people feel better about themselves. The only thing I heard involving Christianity at this time was from my boyfriend, who was not a Christian, but loved the song Build My Life for some reason. I would listen to the song whenever I was with him, but honestly just because he liked it. That summer, that relationship ended really badly, and I was completely lost. I realized that everything I had been looking for was not satisfying me. No matter how hard I tried to make it, I was lost, and I didn't know where to look for help. Around a month before this, I got seated by someone named Julia Bolduck in my bio class. We continued to talk over the summer, and after this happened, I reached out to her. This was right after she got back from Surf and Share, so she was absolutely ready to share the gospel. She invited me to go to Next when it started in September, and even though I didn't have a desire to know God at the time, I went because I had nothing else to do. I was overwhelmed walking in, feeling insecure and like I didn't belong. Worship started, and despite how sad I had felt previously, I felt true joy for the first time. I didn't know any lyrics to any worship songs, so I listened in awe of how fulfilled I felt. One of the last songs that played was the one song I did know, Build My Life. That was the moment that I knew there was a God, and my whole life I've been perfectly loved by him. I saw how he'd been pursuing my heart my entire life, withdrawing me to download the Bible app in 7th grade, me feeling convicted for my sin without even knowing what conviction meant, putting Julia in my life, and even in that moment, having the one worship song I knew playing. I can't possibly put into words how much of a shock it was to know that the God that I had spent my whole life laughing at was real, and instead of being met with the wrath I deserved, he loved me. I heard the gospel for the first time that night in the car from Julia, and I was immediately overwhelmed with a sense of joy and security. I understood that despite my sin and disobedience, Jesus died for me. And not only did he die, but he rose and defeated death so I could be reunited with him forever. That night I gave my life to Jesus. Following this, I knew the Lord had given me a completely new heart. I was overjoyed, but there was a struggle with giving up the world. I wanted to hold on to smoking and validation from guys and my parents. I would be joyful at church, but then I would go home and be confronted with the hard truth that although I had been graciously given a new heart and rescued from my sin, my family had not. I went from not believing in Jesus to defending my beliefs in a day. During the fall retreat 2 years ago, it became clear to me just how worth it is to follow Jesus, to obey him and accept the consequences. To aspire to be like Paul when he said, even if I am being poured out like a drink offering on the sacrifice and service coming from your faith, I am glad. I had to choose to step out in my faith, no matter how hard it may end up being, and rely on his strength in me, not my own, to persevere. I came back from the fall retreat and never smoked again, and attention from guys and acceptance from my family became so unimportant compared to the love I'd found in Jesus. As time goes on, I still struggle, but now I understand that I have absolutely everything I need: love, joy, peace, purpose, the list goes on, in Christ. If this story resonates with you at all, and you may be feeling afraid of what the world would think of you if you started to follow Jesus or told someone you were curious about him, please remember that Jesus calls us to take heart, for he has overcome the world. So step out in faith, and you will see just how much more important Jesus is than anything else.